I'd spent a lifetime pouring everything into my daughter, raising her kids, picking up her pieces, always believing in the best for us. But the day she won the lottery, she simply disappeared, leaving me behind in the rain, publicly claiming my ticket was hers. What she didn't know was that I had signed my name on the back, and her arrogant silence was about to cost her everything. Before we jump back in, don't forget to subscribe while you're listening, and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Now, take a breath and listen closely. This is my story. The cold rain wasn't the only thing soaking into my bones that night. It was the chilling realization that my own daughter had become a stranger. The security lights from the gleaming, unfamiliar mansion bit into my swollen eyes, blurring the pristine lawn. Each raindrop seemed to amplify the words, still echoing. Scarlett's voice, sharp and final, cutting through the night like jagged glass. "You'll never see a dime of my money, you old witch." My worn suitcase hit the concrete, bursting open. Clothes I'd folded hours before. She didn't flinch. Scarlett, my daughter, stood silhouetted in the grand doorway, stark against the opulent interior. Her new boyfriend, barely older than her own son, smirked behind her, an unwelcome trophy. The mansion, still draped in real estate ribbons, loomed. I stood rooted, no shouts, no pleas, just quiet surrender to the storm. Rain plastered my hair, mascara bled, but I stayed perfectly still. Thank God my grandsons weren't home to see their grandmother discarded. "You're a leech!" she shrieked, her voice raw with contempt. "I worked hard for this. You don't get to mooch off me just because you're old." Worked hard. My jaw tightened. I held my tongue, knowing the truth. She'd won the lottery 10 days earlier. $10 million. And overnight, I was dead weight. She'd once spun dreams of us traveling, of a duplex nearby for the kids. She'd called me her rock. Now she hadn't even offered a blanket. I stooped to collect my soaked socks, hands trembling from cold and indignity. I wouldn't let her see me cry. Her eyes, once kissed goodnight, were flat, empty. "Get off my property," she snarled, "or I'm calling the police. You have no right to be here. No right." The words splintered inside me. I longed to scream about 4 years of rent, raising her children, cancelling my own retirement, but I wasn't ready to give her the satisfaction. Clutching my battered suitcase, I stepped back into the muddy downpour. She expected me to crawl back, but she'd made one crucial oversight. She never checked the name on that lottery ticket. A few weeks prior, we were a team. In our small, split-level house, I cooked while Scarlett navigated another failed job search. Our ritual, a gas station lottery ticket when life felt bleak. $10 million! She'd dream, holding her ticket like a golden passport. "We split it down the middle, Mum." I got you. I believed her, even through skipped bills, rolled eyes, or her interviews ending at bars. A mother makes excuses. We cushion blows, carry unseen burdens. Then she changed, distant, snapping, whispering. I thought depression, didn't push. Thursday, local news reported a winning ticket from our usual gas station. "Someone's a millionaire." Scarlett shifted. "You ever buy from there?" she asked, too casual. "Yeah, Monday," I said. She shrugged, avoided my gaze. Next morning, the ticket was gone. My heart sank. Our pact, promises made in comfort, rarely survive opportunity. That ticket was mine. I remembered buying it vividly. The clerk's smile. My casual, quick pick, $2. The receipt was in my wallet. I'd pinned it to the fridge with a smiley face magnet, oblivious to the future I was about to lose. When I got home, she was in a mood, venting about a recruiter. I offered tea. "I bought a ticket," I said. "Maybe we'll finally get out of this old place." No laugh, no smile. Just a flat, "Yeah, that'd be something." I stuck it on the fridge and forgot. She didn't. That night she cooked, poured wine, kissed me goodnight. The next morning, the ticket was gone. Only the hollow magnet remained. She never mentioned it. I never asked. Desperate to believe. But then came the new shoes, whispered midnight calls, the door slammed for space. I kept quiet. I hoped. I waited. Until I couldn't. Days later, in my living room, she grinned. "You're not going to believe this. $10 million. I won," she gasped. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked at her and knew she was lying. She never buys tickets. I forced a smile. "Wow. Incredible." She hugged me. "Getting us out of here. The life we deserve." But I knew that we had an expiration date. She never looked like she meant it. My gut screamed. She took my ticket. She had no idea what she'd truly stolen. 3 days later, she was gone. No goodbye, no note. Just a missing toothbrush, a half-empty closet, silence. Mr. Frank, our neighbour, confirmed a U-Haul at 5 a.m. She was directing them in heels and a robe. My stomach went cold. She'd slipped out while I was pulling garden weeds. She didn't just leave. She escaped. I was a burden. Cast off. Her mug, "Strong women raise strong daughters," gone. Only mine and the magnet remained. I pressed my hand to the fridge, staring at the empty spot. No joke. No suspicion. She took my ticket. And now, she was gone. I called once, straight to voicemail. No message. No begging. Years spent waiting for her to choose me over convenience. I sat at the kitchen table, looking at her empty chair. The unfair life she always moaned about. Unfair. I recalled paying her rent, raising her kids, sacrificing my own life for hers. Now, a mansion, my money, my ticket. She called it a miracle, but she forgot something. The name. She never flipped the ticket, never checked who signed it. That arrogance would unravel everything. I wasn't the woman who'd wiped her tears. No, I was the woman who signed that ticket, and I was done being quiet. Have you ever had a moment where you realized the person you loved most saw you as nothing more than a stepping stone? Scarlett thought I'd crawl back, tail between my legs, grateful for crumbs. But she'd made one crucial oversight. I wasn't the same woman who used to wipe away her tears and tell her it would all be okay. No, I was the woman who signed that ticket, and I was done being quiet. She was gone, but not invisible. Not to me. I saw everything she did because she couldn't help herself. She flaunted that win like a badge of honor, parading it across social media. From broke single mum to millionaire queen, she wrote under a photo of herself on the steps of a marble white mansion, drink in hand, legs crossed like she belonged there. Her smile was wide, but I knew it too well. It wasn't joy. It was gloating. The people she celebrated with, cousins she hadn't called in 5 years, old high school friends who once talked about her behind her back. Suddenly, they were all family again. And me? I vanished from her narrative completely. No, thank you, Mom. No, we did it. Not even a picture of the house we used to share. Where I raised her. Where I helped her raise her own children. Where I cleaned up her messes and held her together when she was falling apart. She cut me out like I was a wrinkle in her perfect new life. But I didn't shout. I didn't comment. I didn't post a single thing. I just watched. Because in her arrogance, she forgot one thing. I was still her mother, and mothers notice. I saw her status change from seeking employment to private investor. Saw her tag a luxury real estate agent in a story captioned, "Starting Fresh." Saw her post boomerangs of champagne flutes clinking in rooftop bars while her boys played in the background, unattended. The image of my grandsons in that chaos made something in me go cold. She'd traded structure for spectacle. And me? She replaced me with a nanny who couldn't even spell their names right in captions. But the worst part wasn't what she showed off. It was what she stopped showing at all. The boys, less and less. First just one photo a week, then nothing. And I knew what that meant. She was busy, distracted, self-absorbed. She was chasing a life she never built for herself. Not really. Because the truth was, she hadn't earned that money. She'd stolen it, and whether she knew it or not, she was building her dream house on sand. I didn't confront her, not yet, because I needed more than anger. I needed proof. So I opened a drawer I hadn't touched in years and pulled out the folder with my old grocery lists. And yes, the photo I took of that ticket the day I bought it, just for fun. There it was. Blurry, tilted, but legible. Date, time, location, numbers, mine. I printed it, tucked it into my coat pocket. Because she may have walked out on me, but I was about to walk right back into the truth. And this time, I wouldn't be the one erased. I didn't go to her. Not yet. I went to the gas station. The same one where I'd bought milk, picked up canned beans, and paid bills on instinct for the last 15 years. The man behind the counter, Ben, knew me by name. "Miss Evelyn," he called as I stepped in. "Long time no see." I smiled, but it felt tight on my face. "Ben, I need to ask you something. Do you remember the lottery ticket I bought last Monday? The one I joked might change my life?" He laughed. "Yeah, I remember. You said you were going to buy yourself a beach house and leave your daughter the dishes." I didn't laugh with him. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "That ticket's missing. And someone else is claiming they bought it." His face dropped. "Wait, you're saying that winning ticket?" "I signed the back," I said. "I always do." He blinked. "Well, DMN. I can check the security footage if you want." My knees nearly gave out. "Could you?" 10 minutes later, he brought me into the back room. The screen was small, grainy, but there I was. My coat, my bag, my grey roots showing under my knit cap. My hand, reaching across the counter, exchanging a bill for that little slip of paper, then pulling a pen from my purse and writing something. My name. I covered my mouth. "Ben, would you mind if I recorded this?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Go ahead." I took out my phone and hit record. No words, just proof. Later that day, I called the state lottery office. I told them everything. When I bought the ticket, where, that I had surveillance, a photo of the numbers, and most importantly, my name signed on the back. The woman on the phone paused when I finished. Then she said, "I'm going to need you to send over everything you have. We'll open an investigation. If your name is on the back and it matches the footage, the payout can be legally challenged." I didn't flinch. I didn't gloat. I just asked, "Can you freeze the winnings?" She answered, "Once the investigation is formally opened, yes." I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat there in my small kitchen, the one she used to mock for being dated, and finally let myself breathe. I didn't text her. I didn't call. Let her keep sipping champagne in her rented luxury, because while she was busy buying Versace and burning bridges, I was letting the facts do what years of love never could. Hold her accountable. And the best part? She had no idea what was coming. Not yet, but when the money stopped flowing, and the people stopped cheering, and the silence crept in like rot, she'd look up and realize the woman she called a leech was the one holding the pen all along. Isn't it astonishing how the quietest truths can create the loudest avalanches? The first thing Scarlett did with the money, after disappearing, after cutting me out, was buy followers. Not literally, but that's what it felt like. Overnight, her social media profile transformed into a dazzling showroom. Designer bags, poolside brunches, bragging about spending 10 grand on a single shopping trip like it was pocket change. Then it got worse. She started talking about me, subtly at first. A post about cutting out toxic people. Then, a photo of her toasting with old friends under the caption, "Finally free from leeches. Surround yourself with winners, not beggars." I read it twice, my face burning, my stomach twisting. Laughter. Applause emojis. Her friend, Tasha. "We always knew she was dead weight." Someone else. "Good riddance to the old moocher. Live your life, girl." I scrolled through dozens of comments like that. They didn't know me. They didn't know the woman who skipped meals so her daughter could have seconds. The one who co-signed a lease when her credit was in the gutter. The one who held her granddaughter's hand through a fever and cleaned vomit out of the carpet while her mother went clubbing to clear her head. They didn't know what I gave because my daughter never told them. She'd erased me with a few keystrokes and let strangers paint me as some pathetic parasite. I didn't respond. I didn't comment. I just screenshot every cruel word, every boastful post, every tag. Then I printed them. Because while she was out shopping for clout, I was sitting with a lawyer named Dana, referred by a kind neighbor who'd been through something similar. Dana wore glasses, spoke with quiet precision, and never once asked if I was sure. She read my documents silently. My grocery receipts, the signed photo of the ticket, the grainy surveillance screenshots from Ben's store. When she finished, she looked me straight in the eye. "This isn't just fraud, Evelyn. It's theft. And you have a case." I nodded. "I don't want revenge. I want what's rightfully mine." "Yes," she confirmed. We submitted everything that afternoon. By the end of the week, the state lottery office confirmed. Investigation active. Payout frozen. Public announcement delayed. Still, I said nothing to Scarlett. What was the point of warning someone who was already burning the bridge behind them? Let her walk further out on that ledge. Let her mock me louder while the foundation crumbled under her heels. The more she posted, the more she exposed, and she had no idea who was watching. Not anymore. She kept going. Louder, meaner, more smug, but I didn't respond. Not a text, not a call, not even a warning. Because when someone's dancing in the middle of a storm they can't see coming, you don't scream at them to stop. You just wait. While she posted photos with captions like, "Real queens don't ask for permission," I was sitting in Dana's office, signing a formal affidavit confirming the exact date, location, and circumstances of my purchase. While she uploaded videos flaunting her independence, I quietly forwarded bank statements showing my old balance before the money vanished. Evidence of who I was before she walked out with my future in her purse. I stayed silent, and it became my greatest weapon. Because my silence forced her to fill the void with noise that exposed her ego, her impulsiveness, her complete lack of care for anyone but herself. She'd been calling relatives we hadn't seen in years. "We should catch up," she'd say, dangling trips and gifts like bait. People who never even remembered her birthday were now in her comments, pretending they loved her. And me? I watched. Not with jealousy, not even sadness anymore. With clarity, because she was making the same mistake over and over again, thinking love meant control, that power meant possession, that money could buy a clean slate and memory loss. But what she didn't realize was that while she was treating this win like a fantasy, I was building something solid, a case, a foundation, a future she no longer had any place in. Dana called me late one evening. "Evelyn, the Lottery Commission has officially acknowledged your claim. They're freezing all associated accounts linked to the winning ticket until the matter is resolved. The payout is on hold indefinitely." I sat in my kitchen, a cup of tea in my hand, listening to those words like they were music. "Do I need to inform her?" I asked quietly. Dana chuckled. "No, the banks will do that for you." And sure enough, 2 days later, her social media went quiet. Dead quiet. No posts, no stories, no luxury hauls, no champagne bubbles. Just silence. I imagined her waking up, trying to use her card, and watching the screen flash declined. I pictured her trying again, frantic fingers, confused voice, and then finally, panic. But I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. Because this wasn't about vengeance. It was about dignity. Mine. I had done everything right. I had loved her beyond my limits, sacrificed beyond reason, given without taking. And she repaid me with exile and mockery. But now she was getting exactly what she gave me. Nothing. How often do we mistake silence for surrender, only to learn it was the calm before the storm? The state verified everything, every blurry second of footage, every shaky line of my signature. They didn't hesitate. Every timestamp, every camera angle, every grainy second of video showing my hand taking that ticket, sliding it into my purse, signing my name with shaky pen. It was all mine. "This will move forward to public announcement," the official told me. "We'll be issuing a correction and planning a press release for the true claimant." True claimant. It felt like a title, a role I had earned just by being honest. For the first time in months, I felt truly seen. Not as someone's mother, not as a doormat or a burden, but as a person who had held on to the truth, even when it nearly crushed her. I hung up and stared at the quiet house around me. No chandeliers, no echoing staircases or ocean views. Just the kettle, the fraying curtain, the chipped paint by the sink. Yet it felt more like home than any mansion ever could. I didn't rush to tell anyone, not even the neighbor who'd lent me a casserole dish and once whispered, "You're too good to be treated like that." This wasn't about proving something to them. It was about proving something to myself, that I hadn't gone crazy, that I hadn't imagined her change, her coldness, the moment she stopped seeing me as family and started seeing me as competition. She thought I'd stay silent forever, that I'd be too embarrassed, too small, too old to fight back. But she forgot. Quiet doesn't mean weak, and dignity doesn't ask for permission. I looked out the window that night, the sky dark and starless, and let myself feel something I hadn't in weeks, peace, because I didn't just get my ticket back, I got me back. The version of myself that knew her worth, that knew when to give and when to stop giving, that no longer measured her love in how much she could endure. The press conference was scheduled for next week. Minimal notice, just enough time to prepare. I didn't tell Scarlett. Why would I? She never told me she was leaving, never told me she was moving, never said a word while she pocketed $10 million and told the world it was hers. She forgot to look back, and I wouldn't warn her to look ahead. Let her find out like I did. Alone, stunned, standing in the middle of a life that didn't belong to her. The truth was on its way, and it had my name on it. The night before the press conference, I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves, not from fear, but from memory. I lay on my old twin bed, the ceiling fan whirring above me, and stared into the dark as images played across my mind, like a film no one asked to watch. Her first steps, her first heartbreak, how she once climbed into my bed at 15, cheeks blotchy, mascara smeared, whispering, "Why does everyone leave?" I held her that night until dawn. I never thought she'd be the one to leave me behind. I thought I was building a life where sacrifice was its own reward, that if I just kept giving, kept holding space for her chaos, one day she'd look back and say, "Mom, I see you?" She never did, and that used to crush me. But lying there in the quiet, I realized something. I had done everything I could, and she had chosen. People like to say, blood is thicker than water, but they never finish the quote. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which means the bonds you choose mean more than the ones you're born into. She chose money over memory, ego over honesty, image over me. And I was done blaming myself for that. I thought of all the times I tucked her in when I hadn't slept, paid her rent with money meant for my medicine, cancelled doctor appointments, outings with friends, even my own dreams, because hers always seemed more urgent. But now I didn't feel empty. I felt clean, like everything she'd taken from me had been replaced with something better, clarity. Have you ever found peace in letting go of what you thought you were supposed to carry forever? That next morning, I stood in front of the mirror, tying my hair back, putting on the blouse I used to save for holidays. It wasn't flashy, not expensive, but it was mine, a simple garment for a profound day. The ride to the press conference was quiet. Dana sat beside me, briefcase on her lap, eyes calm. She didn't ask if I was ready. She knew I was. We arrived at the small auditorium. Nothing grand, just a podium, a banner, and a room full of local reporters buzzing with questions. The official called my name. Today, we're here to clarify the rightful ownership of the $10 million winning ticket purchased at Gas and Go on Route 18. Cameras flashed. I stepped up, my voice steady, clear. My name is Evelyn Markham, I said. I bought that ticket. I signed it. And I am the rightful winner. It was over in 3 minutes. The press tried to ask more. I smiled politely and stepped away. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. The truth had already done the talking. And somewhere out there, my daughter's perfect world was cracking. I didn't need to watch. I already knew what it looked like when people realized their castle was built on stolen sand. I didn't post a thing after the press conference, didn't tag, didn't brag, didn't even tell a soul outside the legal circle. But somehow, Scarlett still hadn't heard. The very next morning, she posted a story from a rooftop lounge, wearing new pearls and holding a cocktail like the world still belonged to her. Manifesting more millions. The caption read. I stared at my phone, lips pressed tight. She had no idea the state had frozen her accounts, no idea the investigation was over, no idea that her name was about to be erased from every inch of the prize she'd claimed. And I didn't owe her a warning. Let her enjoy one last sunset over a rented skyline. I had arranged the press conference for a reason. Minimal notice, quiet location, just enough presence to be official, but not enough to alert her before it was done. She didn't know, because I hadn't told her, and she hadn't checked, because she thought I was incapable of action. That was her blind spot. She thought my silence meant surrender. She forgot who raised her. The woman who sat through school meetings with a spine made of steel. The woman who worked overtime to pay for her braces, then sewed her prom dress from clearance fabric because she couldn't afford the one she really wanted. The woman who stayed up all night to hold her through breakups, anxiety attacks, postpartum tears. I had been her backbone until she snapped it. So now I stood alone, not weaker, not lesser, but clearer. I didn't need the world to know what she did. I just needed the law to, and they did. Dana sent me the updated documents that afternoon. Proof that the state had transferred all winning rights to me, that the payment would be reissued under my name, that the former claimant, my daughter, was no longer legally entitled to a cent. I sat at the kitchen table, paper in hand, and breathed. She still hadn't called, still hadn't noticed, and part of me didn't want her to, because the longer she stayed in the dark, the sharper the fall would be. People like her don't see the truth until it's too late, until the lights flicker off, the bank apps stop working, the friends stop answering, and the people she spent 10 million trying to impress turn their backs without a second glance. That was coming, and when it did, I wouldn't raise my voice. I wouldn't slam any doors. I'd simply look her in the eye and do what she never expected. Walk away. Sometimes the most powerful acts are those performed in quiet confidence, don't you think? The moment the news finally reached her, the clock on my kitchen wall ticked past 12 or 18 p.m., and my phone erupted into a frenzy. It buzzed like a swarm of angry hornets trapped in a jar. Each vibration rattled the worn oak table beneath it, a relentless reminder of a world demanding my attention. I ignored every call, every chime, every insistent pulse. My heart knew who it was waiting for, and it wasn't the neighbors or the news stations or the curious voices itching for gossip. I sat still, my hands folded in my lap, the weight of years pressing against my chest, like a stone smoothed by a river's endless current. I waited for her. At 1:43 p.m., I finally picked up. The phone screen lit up with her name. Scarlett. A name that once felt like family, but now tasted bitter, like coffee left too long on the burner. I answered. She didn't bother with pleasantries. No, hello. No, are you okay? Her voice tore through the line, raw and jagged, a scream that carried the weight of a life unraveling in real time. You stole my life! she shrieked, her words splintering with panic. It was the kind of panic that erupts when someone realizes the carefully crafted mask they've worn for years is melting under the glare of truth, exposed for all to see. Her voice was a storm, wild and untamed, but I stayed quiet, letting the tempest rage. I could picture her pacing, her manicured nails digging into her palms, her carefully constructed world collapsing in the harsh light of a public stage. "You think you're clever? Dear man, you?" She spat, the sound laced with a venom I'd heard before, but never directed so purely at me. "You think this is justice? You humiliated me in front of everyone. What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to face them?" Her words hung there, trembling, filled with a self-pity so profound it was almost comical. I let the silence stretch, just long enough to feel her squirm on the other end of the line, that uncomfortable shift of someone realizing their audience isn't playing along. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady, low, a blade honed by years of swallowing my own pain. "You could start," I said, "by saying thank you." The line went so quiet I could hear her breath hitch, a sharp, startled gasp. "For what?" she demanded, her voice cracking like thin ice underfoot, utterly bewildered by my response. The audacity of it, even in her despair, was breathtaking. I leaned back in my chair, the familiar creak of its old wood grounding me in my small, solid home. "For the 5 years I kept this house afloat when you couldn't hold a job," I began, each word precise, measured, yet imbued with the weight of forgotten sacrifices. "For the 3 times I paid off your credit card DM and debt without a word, even when it meant skipping my own bills. For raising your children, yes, your children, while you were out finding yourself in bars and borrowed dreams. For not calling the police that night, you slipped out the door with a lottery ticket that wasn't yours, your hands shaking, but your eyes cold with purpose." "You're lying!" she snapped, but there was a quiver in her voice, a crack in her armor that had never been there before. She knew. She'd always known. "No," I said, my words slicing clean through her denial. "I have proof. I signed the ticket. The store's security footage was verified. I could have taken it back quietly, settled it in the shadows where you left it. But you made sure everyone heard your version, didn't you? Parading it on that stage, spinning your story for the cameras. So I made sure they heard mine." She broke then, not with soft tears or remorse, but with the raw, desperate sobs of someone watching their empire of lies crumble. "You've ruined everything?" she choked out, her voice thick with the kind of fear that comes when the world sees you for who you are, stripped bare. "No," I said, calm as a winter morning. My voice felt like cool water on a burning wound. "You built this ruin. I just stopped pretending it was a palace." Her breath caught again, a ragged sound, and I could almost see her grasping for words, for some way to claw back control, to find a narrative where she was the victim. "You don't understand," she pleaded, a desperate edge to her voice, tinged with a terrifying lack of self-awareness. "I bought things. The house, the car, the clothes, everything. It's all gone now, isn't it? You've taken it all." I didn't flinch. "I've already donated half," I said, my voice unwavering, each word deliberate, "to women's shelters, to single mothers who fight for their kids, not abandon them, to the ones who don't treat their own flesh and blood like garbage left on the curb." She gasped, a sound so sharp it was as if I'd struck her across the face. "You're insane," she whispered, but there was no conviction left, only the echo of her own defeat. "No," I said, my voice soft but unyielding. "I'm done being your shadow, your safety net, your silent partner in a life you didn't earn." And then I hung up. No warning, no hesitation. Just the quiet click of the call ending, like the closing of a door I'd held open far too long. The silence that followed was different. Not heavy, not suffocating, but light, like the first breath after a long dive underwater. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a mother cleaning up someone else's chaos, or a sister carrying someone else's weight. I felt like me, whole, unburdened, the real winner of a game I hadn't chosen to play. As I set the phone down, a flicker of something stirred in my chest. Not guilt, not regret, but a question. What comes next when you've burned the bridge you spent a lifetime building, and yet, paradoxically, feel freer than ever before? The sun had barely crept over the horizon the next morning when the world began to shift under Scarlett's feet. By dawn, her accounts were frozen, locked tight as a vault. The banks, with their cold efficiency, had acted swiftly once the fraud claim was confirmed, their systems blinking red with the weight of her deception. Her house, that gleaming glass mansion she'd bragged about on every social media post, was now under review, its title tangled in a legal knot she couldn't untie. The car, a sleek convertible she'd driven like a crown, was leased under a name she no longer had legal claim to. Even the jewelry, those glittering chains and rings she wore like armor, and the designer handbags stacked in her closet like trophies of a war she hadn't fought, every single one traced back to receipts, and not one bore her name. The truth was unraveling her life thread by thread. And I didn't have to lift a finger. That's the thing about theft. It's a house of cards, fragile and fleeting. Once the truth blows through, it collapses under its own weight. I heard the story through our cousin Leia, who'd only recently been pulled back into Scarlett's orbit after 5 years of silence. Leia called me, her voice a mix of shock and grim amusement, recounting how Scarlett, the one who'd screamed at me just yesterday, had stormed into a boutique downtown, her usual air of untouchable confidence trailing her like perfume. She'd swiped her card for a silk scarf, something to soothe the sting of her public humiliation. The screen flashed, declined. She tried another card, her cheeks flushing as the cashier's polite smile tightened. Declined. Leia said she'd stormed out screaming about glitches and lawsuits, her voice echoing off the boutique's polished walls. But it wasn't a glitch. It was consequence, cold and unyielding, the kind she never saw coming because she thought no one would dare hold her accountable. Least of all me, the quiet mother who used to braid her hair before job interviews, whispering that she was capable of anything, even when she doubted herself. I guess she forgot I was capable too. I don't know the exact moment it sank in for her. Maybe it was when the letter from the state lottery arrived, its official seal spelling out her defeat in stark black ink. Maybe it was when the eviction notice was taped to the front door of that mansion, its glass facade reflecting her stunned face. Or perhaps it was when she sat across from a lawyer, her voice trembling as she tried to explain how her own mother could do this to her, only to have the lawyer slide a folder across the table, calm as a summer lake. Inside, security footage from the corner store, grainy but unmistakable, showing her slipping that lottery ticket into her purse, receipts meticulously catalogued, none in her name, and my signature, bold and clear, on the ticket that changed everything. Each piece of evidence was a brick in the wall, closing her in. The irony was as sharp as a winter wind. She'd thought money made her untouchable, a queen in a castle built on lies. She'd paraded her wealth, her status, her victory, never once glancing back at the woman who'd propped her up through every fall. But in the end, it wasn't the money that broke her. It was the truth. Relentless, unapologetic, and finally free. It stripped her bare, left her standing in the wreckage of her own choices, while I stood on solid ground for the first time in years. She showed up 3 days after the fallout. No call, no warning, just a frantic knock at the door, like she was still the center of a world that had long since stopped spinning for her. I didn't answer right away. I watched her from the living room window, hair tangled, makeup smeared, wearing a sweatshirt that didn't fit the version of her that had once posed in silk robes and posted about leaving broke energy behind. She wasn't crying. Not really. She was furious. I opened the door an inch, just enough to see her eyes. "Mum," she said, voice sharp, breathless. "We need to talk." I didn't move. "There's nothing left to say. You can't do this to me," she snapped. "I didn't know it was your ticket." "You didn't ask," I replied, my voice flat. "You didn't even check. You just took it and ran." Her mouth tightened. "Okay, fine. Maybe I messed up. But freezing my accounts? Taking it all back? That's not justice. That's revenge." I tilted my head. "You called me a witch. A leech. You posted my humiliation like it was a game. That was..." She started, then stopped, realizing there was no excuse good enough. I waited. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "I need help." There it was. The truth under all the noise. Not remorse, not guilt, just need. She needed me again, but not as a mother, as a resource. I let the silence stretch long enough for her to squirm. Her voice got harder, more desperate. "You've made your point. You got your money. You've got your name on the check. Happy now? Can we go back to normal?" I thought about that for a moment, about what normal used to mean. It meant me carrying her, funding her, cleaning up behind her while she built castles with my bones. I looked her straight in the eye. "Goodbye." Her jaw dropped. "What?" I didn't repeat myself. I just started to close the door. "You'll regret this," she shouted, voice rising. "You think that money is going to make you happy? You think you can buy peace?" I paused, and for the first time I smiled. "No. But I bought you out of my life." Then I shut the door. No slam, just quiet. How often do we find that true freedom comes not from gaining something, but from finally letting go? The quiet click of the phone echoed in my small kitchen, a sound that marked not an ending, but a profound new beginning. The silence that followed was different. Not heavy, not suffocating, but light, like the first breath after a long dive underwater. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a mother cleaning up someone else's chaos, or a sister carrying someone else's weight. I felt like me, whole, unburdened, the real winner of a game I hadn't chosen to play, but had finished on my own terms. My home, the little split level with the chipped paint by the sink and the fraying curtain, suddenly felt larger. It wasn't a mansion, no gleaming marble floors or infinity pools, but it was mine. Every scuff mark on the wood, every faded patch on the sofa held a memory of perseverance, not pretense. I walked through the rooms, tracing the familiar lines of a life rebuilt brick by brick, not shattered by someone else's greed. The old smiley face magnet still held its place on the fridge, but now it felt less like a hollow reminder and more like a testament to the truth I'd finally set free. The news of Scarlett's downfall, like wildfire, spread through the small circles she desperately tried to impress. I heard snippets from old acquaintances, distant relatives, who now, with an ironic shift, suddenly remembered my name. The mansion, a symbol of her stolen victory, became a cage of her own making, eventually repossessed. The luxury items, the designer clothes, the flashy cars, all vanished, seized or returned. Her carefully curated social media, once a dazzling showcase of false triumph, went silent, then eventually, entirely blank. The applause emojis ceased. The fawning comments disappeared. She was left with the stark reflection of her choices, stripped of the borrowed glitter. People like her didn't see the truth until the lights flickered off, the bank apps stopped working, the friends stopped answering. It wasn't my doing anymore. It was the law, and the natural consequence of a life built on sand. I thought of the $10 million, half, as promised, already moved to foundations dedicated to helping women and single mothers, quietly supporting families who fought for their children, not abandoned them. It wasn't about public gestures for me. It was about creating a legacy of genuine help, a stark contrast to the life Scarlett had sought. The rest, it would be managed, allowing me to live comfortably, without worry, and with the freedom to choose my days. No more making excuses for bad hips or worse thoughts. No more cancelling my own life. I sat on my porch, the very porch where I used to dream of a swing, now basking in the quiet afternoon sun. The air was soft, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine from my garden. This wasn't revenge in the bitter sense. It was a reclaiming, a liberation. I hadn't just gotten my ticket back, I had gotten myself back. The version of Evelyn Markham who knew her worth, who understood when to give, and crucially, when to stop giving. The woman who no longer measured her love in how much she could endure. There was no victory dance, no triumphant shout into the wind. Just a profound, settled peace that finally, after a lifetime of sacrificing and compromising, my dignity was my own. I finally understood that walking away, truly walking away, was the strongest step I could take. And isn't it amazing how the quiet strength of self-worth can be the most resounding triumph of all? Share your thoughts on Evelyn's journey and what true justice means to you in the comments below. Your voice matters, and we love hearing from you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories of resilience and unexpected